Recording in progress.
Colleagues, good morning. It's some few seconds before 10. May I invite you, Brian, to post the agenda, please? Thank you. Colleagues, this is the agenda for today. Last week, the meeting agreed that I must bring up the briefing by the Office of the Auditor General of South Africa on progress made in the implementation of against the records review report, particularly on material irregularities. So that item is on the agenda. We're looking at the status, progress report on the implementation of the matters that we picked up at audit and were reported in the status of records review. But for today, we are focusing on material irregularities and so we will also take a presentation on the progress on the expenditure on the ring-fenced budget allocated I think it's a ring-fenced budget allocated for border safeguarding. But certainly if we're limiting it to border safeguarding only, or it's just a report on the ring-fence, the expenditure on the ring-fenced budget. Of course, that would include budget allocated for border safeguarding. And then we deal with the minutes and then close the meeting. I must quickly add that the report on Mzimvubu is received, the progress report is in writing. Have you circulated it, Brian?
Not yet, Chair.
Not yet. Oh, okay. Now, please circulate that report. We received it. Was it yesterday or this morning?
It was late yesterday.
Late yesterday, okay. Please circulate that one. That report, so that colleagues are able to look at it, check what progress has been made in that regard. Okay. So so these are matters. It's briefing by the SSI, AXA, on the status of records review and feedback on material irregularities, as well as the second item. Mr. Mare, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Much appreciated. Also for the information. I just wanted to check up on last week. There was on our last meeting, there was questions that they said that they would come back to us. Now, given that this is our last official committee meeting of the 6th Parliament today, how do we deal with that information that they have promised to get back to us? I mean, will Brian in the meantime and yourself make sure that we get that information at least and that feedback? Or will that just be vanishing into thin air at the moment and it has to be taken up somewhere in the future, which obviously nullified the purpose of questions last week? Thank you.
Brian, indeed, for both departments, DMV and DOD, there were items that we asked them to come back to us on. There's no provision today. Brian, were there no deadlines by? Did you not give them the timeframes by when they must come back to us? I know DMV was Friday last week.
That is correct, Chair. That is correct, Chair. The deadline for DMV was the 22nd, and there were reminders that were sent for them to get back to us, but we have still not received any feedback from them.
I'm actually referring to DOD. I'm referring to DOD.
No. I'll come back to that, Mr. Marin. I'll come back to that. So, okay. So, you see, if they are not coming back to us, then they're forcing us to convene an urgent meeting, because nothing stops us from convening an urgent meeting and to receive the presentation. You see, I hope they are taking this as a warning that the time has come and gone, and they've not honored. In fact, they proposed the Friday, 22nd, and they said they'll come back to us by that date, and they still have not done so. And I hope the team I hope the team in the department is taking note of that. Now, on the DOD, was there a deadline?
Chair, I'm not quite sure whether in relation to DOD there's a deadline. I'll just have to go back and check, Chair.
Oh, I see. All right. Mr. Mare, was there a deadline? What was please remind us?
No, it was just, there was questions and follow-ups last week when they just said that they do not have the information with them and they will get back to us on that. So I cannot recall that we have set a deadline. I must be honest with you. I will have to go to the records myself. But, you know, maybe Brian can just follow up with them. And as you rightfully said, I mean, if it is required, that you convene an urgent meeting, then so be it, then we do it. But I think our duty is up till, you know, end of May when we, you know, dissolve as members of Parliament. And until that day, I think we need to do our work diligently, and I obviously appreciate that coming from your side. So much appreciated. Given that this might be, you know, the last meeting or the last term of some of us, then you know, it is. I think it's just proper that we conclude the 6th Parliament in the right way, and leave our legacy to whoever is taking over in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, no. You are right. It's fine. We'll follow it up in writing. Brian will go back to the minutes, pick up those areas, and resend them back to them with a request once again for the response. And it's just that I can't remember what those issues are. And so we will just leave it at that for now. And Brian, do you have the quorum?
Indeed, we do, Chair.
We do. Thank you very much. Colleagues, that paves the way for us to start the meeting. And let me welcome all of you and thank you for your time. And it's going to, I don't see this being a long meeting. We have invited the Office of the Auditor General specifically to talk to us on the progress being made on the audit matters raised in the status of records review, as well as progress on the side of material irregularities. Quite a few that were raised. We want to see what progress is being made in that respect. And we were the first department, or amongst the first department, to be piloted on the status of records review. And being one of the first departments, and I think it's four years later since that pilot started, and we're closing this term in a month or two. We want to see whether that amendment that brought about this focus area is really giving us some results and so on. So it's like a review or an assessment on the implementation of that provision that we all celebrated when it was effected to the Audit Act. So that's one. And then we take that briefing. Let me just check who is present from the department. I've not looked at their record, and I know there's DOD. I assume SecDev is part of the DOD team. And yes, SecDev, good morning. Acting SecDev, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes,
good morning, Chair, and good morning, members of the Portfolio Committee and the AG. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, SecDev. I understand the Chief of Staff is present at the meeting, and the CFO, SecDev, Acting SecDev.
Yes, I have the Chief of Staff, General Ramanswane. I also have the Acting CFO, Mr. Abotsi, and General Kundu would make a presentation on border safeguarding.
Thank you very much.
And the acting CLOG on the line, because some matters require CLOG.
Okay. No, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, there's also IG, DOD present. All right. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, Acting SecDev. And from the side of the Auditor General, I saw Ms. Sotetsi. Ms. Sotetsi, good morning. You may introduce the team.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and Honorable members. From our side, I'm also joined by Ms. Uviwe Huklana. She's the Senior Manager on the DMV Audit, and also Mr. Floyd Twane, who is representing Mr. Kutsie, who's on leave this week. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mbadi, from the AG's office, Business Executive. Right. So this is the scope of the, just go to the scope of the presentation. this is the scope of the presentation that will be run through. And I now invite Mbali Tsotetsi, AGSA, to take us through. Over to AGSA.
Thank you very much, Chair, and also good morning to our colleagues from the DOD and the DMV. Thank you, Chair, for this opportunity. As you've highlighted, we are going to present on the status of records review, in the main, the progress that we're seeing, and also the MIs. But as we start off, again, we just want to remind the committee and all the attendees about our mission as the Office of the Auditor General. So we are a supreme audit institution of the country, and we exist to strengthen this country's democracy by enabling oversight, accountability, and governance in the public sector through the audit work that we are doing, and thereby building public confidence. Again, just to highlight the outline of our presentation, we are going to start by talking to the accountability ecosystem and also the progress on the audit matters that we raised in the prior year. Then we'll talk about MIs, looking at the Auditor General of South Africa as a whole to say what has been the journey since we started with this process in 2019. Thereafter, we'll focus on the MIs that we've raised within the defense and military veterans portfolio. And then we want to briefly talk to the call to action, whereby we invited the minister also to make some inputs or commitments on how she's going to assist this portfolio in moving forward with the audit matters, as well as the areas of consequence management. Lastly, Chair, we're going to talk about the matters that would like the portfolio committee to take forward to the next administration, and then we'll invite the committee also for the closing remarks. Chair, in terms of the accountability ecosystem, it's part of us talking to the culture shift strategy that we are implementing as the Office of the Auditor General, whereby we are saying that we all have a role to play to ensure that we move the public sector culture towards doing good for the citizens of this country. So just a recap, once again, in terms of this ecosystem, we are saying that there are various role players. Some of them are responsible for making the decisions that will ensure that the departments and entities implement their respective mandates. And part of this ecosystem also talks to the monitors, monitoring as well as oversight by relevant role players. So on the left-hand side, that's where we have the decision makers that are really implementing the mandates of the entities, especially talking about officials that are on the ground that are implementing the basics on the day-to-day basis. And then you have your senior management that must ensure that they monitor and review the activities that are being performed by the officials on the ground, with the aim of ensuring that there is accountability in terms of what they need to do in preparing the financial statements, or in terms of ensuring that the performance that is in the APP is going ahead as desired. But you also have other role players like internal audit and audit committee that are there to provide independent assurance on whether the activities are being conducted in an environment that is strong in terms of the internal control, and also then to give recommendations to the accounting officer to ensure that they close those gaps within the internal control before the external auditors, which is the AGSA, comes through to review the records. And then the role of the accounting officer is clearly defined in the PFMA and involves, amongst others, ensuring that the entity prevents irregular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, but that if it does happen, there is consequence management for such activities. Then the executive authority is there also to provide oversight over the whole portfolio to ensure that they are doing their work towards implementing the full mandate. Then on the right-hand side, as indicated, this is where now you find the monitoring departments and other entities, but also where you find the oversight, including the portfolio committee, which are there also to implement their roles as part of the accountability ecosystem. We also say that as AGSA, we are part of this ecosystem, and our role is to ensure that we provide audit insights. And those insights are meant to influence the role players to ensure that they perform their mandates as desired, so that there is accountability there is transparency in reporting, there is performance aligned to the mandates, and that there is integrity in terms of implementing consequence management. And we're saying that as part of our enforcement mandate, we'll then move to that area if the accounting officers and authorities are then not playing their roles as required in the PFMA. As we will demonstrate today, then with the material irregularity, which is part of our enforcement mandate, to indicate what actions have we taken then when we found that accounting officers did not implement the required actions to address the irregularities. In the next slide, Chair, we then talk to the progress that we've seen since we issued last year's audit outcomes, in particular to the Department of Defense. So we conducted a status of records review, which is a tool that we implemented in order to support the accounting officer to show them the red flags that we're identifying in the environment, which may then result in the audit failures. So we start off by picking up on the commitments that were made by the accounting officer after we issued our reports in the prior year. So there were 4 key recommendations that were accepted by the accounting officer in the Department of Defense. First, it was around conducting a proper root cause analysis, which will then inform comprehensive audit action plans that will result in the matters being addressed. These action plans were also supposed to be effectively and timely monitored to ensure that indeed by the end of the financial year, the matters would have been addressed. The second recommendation, which was then a commitment of the accounting officer, was talking to collaboration between the chief of the SNDF and the accounting officer in conducting proper and timely investigations and thereby ensuring that consequence management is being implemented. The third one was taking the right actions to address material irregularities that have been issued to the department. And the last one was around ensuring that the process of filling vacancies is expedited, especially at senior management levels. So what we've seen when we conducted the status of records review was firstly that the department did not finalize the audit plans on time to ensure that the findings that we raised in the prior year were addressed. We were informed that the accounting officer did review the action plans that came out from the services, but was not happy with the manner in which those actions were crafted. So meaning that they could not fully address the issues, and they were returned back to the services to properly address the deficiencies. So that meant that at the time of our review, there were no fully finalized action plans to address the issues, which was a concern for us, looking at where the time frames in terms of ensuring that by year end, all the actions would have been addressed. The second item that we still note within the department, which has been an issue for a number of years, is the resourcing of the internal audit division. As I highlighted, in terms of the ecosystem, internal audit has a specific role to play in ensuring that they provide independent assurance and some recommendations then to the accounting officer to support them in terms of strengthening the environment. So that area also remains a concern, and in particular, the position of the chief audit executive that has been outstanding for a number of years in terms of being followed. The third item in terms of the progress on the areas that we looked at was around the issues of qualification that were reported last year. So we reported a number of qualification areas when it comes to tangible capital assets. And in terms of our review or assessment that we did, we could not get satisfaction that there was enough progress that has been made to fully address all those 5 qualification areas. The other area of qualification that has been reported also for a number of years, it relates to the completeness of irregular expenditure that is being disclosed by the department in the financial statements. Again, in this area, we found that there was limited progress that has been made to fully quantify the irregular expenditure. And this also links with the progress that is being made to address the procurement-related internal control deficiencies, because the irregular expenditure in the main that we're identifying relates to the non-compliance with procurement legislation. So it is important that in as much as the department is quantifying the irregular expenditure, but they must also close the deficiencies within the procurement area so that there's no further irregular expenditure that is being incurred as they are quantifying the amount that must be disclosed. The other key area of concern in the department is around consequence management. So in terms of our review, we also focused on the investigations that are being conducted on irregularities, which includes irregular expenditure, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, issues of financial misconduct, and also material irregularities. So in terms of our review, we noted that there was limited movement in terms of investigations that were being finalized into these matters. And in some instances, some cases were not even started in terms of starting investigations into those irregularities. So this delay then in investigations will have a negative impact in terms of implementing consequence management, because the process starts with an investigation, which then leads to other processes of consequence management, which may include disciplinary hearings as well as recoveries. In the prior year, part of our insights talked to the border equipment that was not procured by the department at that point in time. We followed up on this matter, and we found that there were still delays around procuring this much required border equipment for the department. So when we look at then what is the impact of all these areas of concern, noting the progress that is limited, we are then highlighting that in terms of the financial statements, the material misstatements that we reported in the prior year are likely to recur because of the limited progress that we noted when we were conducting our status of records review. Also, the issues around procurement, where internal control deficiencies were still not fully addressed, may result in further irregular expenditure being incurred. And also, when it comes to consequence management, so the issues around investigations and the lack of movement also may result in the lack of accountability, and also the department being unable to recover losses where it is required. And then the last part talks to the procurement also of the border equipment, whereby we are saying that it might have then a negative impact on the availabilities of the much needed defense capability. Then moving on to Department of Military Veterans. So in terms of this department, we had at that point of finalizing the defense status of records review, not finalized this one, because the audit was finalized a bit later than the Department of Defense. However, there was some work that was being done in terms of the planning. And with all that, let's highlight also the progress that we are seeing based on that work. So again, we want to just touch on the key recommendations that we made in terms of how the department should address the matters reported. Firstly, it was a matter of developing comprehensive action plans to address the issues raised. It was an area of consequence management where investigations were to be conducted and implement consequences, and also where investigations were finalized, also again to ensure that the right actions are being implemented. And lastly, the issue of also filling key vacant positions. So what is the progress that we've seen? Again, in terms of the DMV, we noted some concerns around implementing the actions that were highlighted in the action plans. So there were some action plans in place, but we found that we could not validate some of the actions that were indicated as having been implemented by the department. The department also has an issue of resourcing of internal audit division, which then again impacts the internal control environment, which is then not being reviewed as required. There was also a qualification on irregular expenditure in this department in the prior year, whereby the irregular expenditure disclosed was not complete, we have also noted limited progress in terms of addressing this particular item. We also noted that there were some potential misstatements that we identified when we reviewed the interim financial statements for quarter 3. So highlighting the issue that we've been raising around the lack of sufficient and adequate reviews of the information supporting financial statements. When it comes to the issues of consequence management, in particular the investigations, again, we are noting in this department limited movement in terms of the investigations that are being conducted to address the matters. There was still also lack of implementation of the recommendations emanating from the reports that were conducted by the DPME and the Nexus during the 2021-22 financial year. In terms of senior management positions, they were still also not filled, and there are a number of key vacancies that are outstanding in this department, and some for quite a number of years. So again, looking at the impact, then it means that material misstatements that were reported are likely to recur owing to the limited movement that we noted during our audit. And also then the issues of irregular expenditure may recur. The consequence management for transgressors will have an impact on also enforcing accountability within the department. And when it comes to losses to the state that are not promptly being recovered, it then points out to our resources not being effectively and economically used. Chairperson, I'm going to move now to the material irregularities. So just a step back to say, why were the powers then extended in terms of the Public Audit Act, and what does it mean when we do implement these powers? So the Public Audit Act was amended as a result of actions or audit recommendations that were highlighted by the AG not being implemented. So there was no improvement, or there was little improvement in terms of implementing those audit recommendations to ensure that the environments were improving. So owing to this little improvement, the Public Audit Act was then amended, which gave powers to the AG to hold accountable the accounting officers that were entrusted with public funds and were not accounting for their actions. So this amendment also now finds itself in our strategy, which is Culture Shift 2030, as part of the enforcement objective. So what is an MI? A material irregularity means any non-compliance with or contravention of legislation, fraud, theft, or a breach of fiduciary duty that we identify during an audit that we perform under the Public Audit Act, that will result in or has resulted in a material financial loss, the misuse or loss of a material public resource, or substantial harm to a public sector institution or the general public. So the actions that we can take then, if the accounting officer that does not appropriately deal with the MI, includes first that we can refer the matter to a relevant public body for further investigation, or we can recommend actions in the audit report to address or resolve that particular MI. If the accounting officer or accounting authority fails to deal or to implement the recommendations, we can then take binding remedial action for that failure to implement the recommendations included in the audit report. And the last step will be to issue a certificate of debt for failure to implement remedial action if there was a financial loss that was linked to that particular MI. So the overall aim of the expanded mandate was to instill a culture of accountability, to protect the resources that we have, and also to enhance the public sector performance and encourage a culture of ethics so that we strengthen the public sector institutions so that they can better serve us as the citizens of this country. So in terms of the journey of the MI process, we are focusing on the MIs that were issued in the space of national and provincial government in terms of departments and entities. So this picture here excludes local government. So the focus is really on national and provincial, and also looking at the period since we started implementing MIs as the HGSA. So it's all the MIs that have been raised in those particular environments. And we take this also from the presentation that the AG made recently to the Standing Committee on Auditor General. So since the implementation, we have issued 266 MIs on non-compliance and suspected fraud, which resulted in 240 MIs where there was a loss or estimated loss of 14.34 billion. There were 9 MIs on a misuse of a material public resource, which is part of the definition of the MI. There were 3 MIs on substantial harm to the general public and 14 MIs on substantial harm to public sector institutions. So what is the status then of all these MIs? The status is indicated on the right-hand side, but I just want to talk to the point about resolving MIs to say when is an MI then resolved? So an MI is resolved when all possible steps have been taken by the accounting officer or accounting authority to recover financial losses or remove or address the harm that was caused, where they have effected consequences for the officials involved or even third parties, if there were any that were involved. And also if they've prevented any further losses or harm, and also improved internal controls to ensure that the MIs do not recur. So what we found is that once we issued MIs, most of the accounting officers did take the right actions to address the matters. But prior to us raising the MIs, there were no actions that were being taken. So this, we noted it in 82% of the matters where we raised MI, the accounting officers and accounting authorities only then started to take the action. So showing that there is a positive impact in terms of us implementing this particular process. But at the high level, in terms of the status, there are now 79 MIs that we've resolved. So meaning that the accounting officers or authorities implemented the right actions that we expected of them when we raised those particular MIs. There are 75 MIs where there's still appropriate action being taken to resolve the MIs. There were 32 MIs where appropriate action was not being taken, and then resulting in the HGSA having to invoke the powers that came with the amendments. So what happened in those 32 MIs is that in 23, there were recommendations included in the audit report. There were 8 referrals to other public bodies. There were 6 referrals where there was also recommendations as well in the audit report. There is 1 MI which is at a referral plus remedial actions. There were other MIs that were still in progress at the time of us compiling this report. In the next section, I will then briefly also touch on the MIs, the impact of the MIs, as we indicated that we've seen some action emanating from us raising the MIs to the entities. So we noted that there was, at this point in time, at the cutoff date of this report, there was 1.29 billion rand in terms of financial losses that were recovered, and 0.56 billion is around 560 million in financial losses that were prevented from occurring. And there was also about 700 billion that was in a process of being recovered. We also noted internal controls being improved and also actions being taken against responsible officials, and some processes were completed whilst others were in progress. We also saw 15 fraud or criminal investigations being instituted and 4 contracts that were stopped where money was being lost. We also just highlight some examples of impact that, Chair, I won't go into in detail, but just to demonstrate that as a result of us raising MIs, accounting officers and accounting authorities did take the necessary actions to ensure that they address the matters to prevent the harm or to recover the resources that were being lost to the fiscus. Moving on to the MIs now in the portfolio of defense and military veterans. So since the start of the MI process, we have issued 11 MIs at this point of this report, and 10 of those MIs were issued to the Department of Defense, with one MI that was issued to the DMV. The 10 MIs include 2 that are in the defense intelligence environment that I won't talk to in details, but they are included in terms of this description, just to show the completeness of the MIs that we've raised within defense. So in terms of the actions that have been taken by the department, focusing on defense, we've seen some prevention of a material financial loss taking place. In particular, on the MI on asset management contract, we noted that the department, the full amount that was spent was below the initial contract that was awarded that resulted in the MI. And therefore, this prevented a material financial loss from being incurred. And then the second MI around heparin drugs that were procured without following legislation, we found that in the end, following a number of investigations into this matter, the drugs were then returned to the supplier, which then prevented the financial loss, as a significant part of the cost was then not spent. We also noted some investigations, as I've indicated, in particular to this matter of heparin drugs being conducted. And this particular matter is currently being referred to the SIU for further investigation and the recovery of the 34 million that was initially paid to the supplier. Also on the matter of one military hospital, there was also an internal investigation that was conducted. Chairperson, I want to just now highlight the description or status description of the matters that we've raised just on each MI that we've issued to the department. The first one being the MI on asset management that was issued as a first MI to the department during 2019. So what happened with this MI is that the accounting officer did not take the right actions that we envisaged in terms of addressing this matter. In particular, this relates to consequence management, because there was an investigation that was conducted internally, which pointed then to certain officials that were involved in the irregularity that led to the MI. However, no further actions were then taken to implement consequence management against both the civilians and the military officials involved in this particular MI. There were various interventions that were we engaged upon when we had discussions with the role players in the ecosystem to ensure that they do implement consequence management regarding this MI, but these interventions did not yield positive results. The AG then, as a result, decided to refer this particular matter to the SIU last year on the 31st of August 2023, and the notifications thereof were issued to the minister as well as the accounting officer. The next matter deals with the lease payments that were made for unoccupied office buildings. In this matter as well, the accounting officer did not take the appropriate actions to deal with the matter. So as a result, again, we have decided to refer this matter to the public protector on the 31st of August 2023, and the investigation is in progress. The third MI dealt with the unfair award for fuel supply, which was raised in 2020. This MI was referred to the Directorate for Priority Crime Investigations, which is the Hawks, in November 2021, and the investigation is still in progress. We did meet with the DPCI a few weeks ago just to get an update on where they are with the investigation and confirm that indeed the investigation is progressing. The next MI deals with the non-usage of medical equipment at 2 military hospitals. This MI was raised, was issued in 2023, and with the initial feedback that we received from the accounting officer, we concluded that the actions that were being taken were not appropriate to ensure that the equipment is fully used. So as a result, we issued a recommendation which was included in the audit report, which required the accounting officer to take reasonable steps to prevent the cardiovascular theater from not being used, which is required also by Treasury regulations around using the resources of the department. The accounting officer was also required to submit a progress report to the HESA by 31 October. We did receive a progress report then, which we assessed and gave feedback to the accounting officer. We further then referred this particular MI to the Public Protector South Africa for further investigation. So the recommendation was supposed to be implemented by the 4th of March 2024, and the department did respond on the 5th of March to indicate what actions have been taken to address the MI. We are in a process of evaluating the response from the accounting officer and will provide feedback. The next MI deals with the unused medical equipment at one military hospital. So in this instance, as I indicated previously, there was an investigation done by the department. There was a board of inquiry that was done as early as 2018 into this matter and made certain recommendations around that medical equipment. But those recommendations were not implemented, which then resulted in this likely financial loss that we raised, resulting in this MI. So what we expected from the accounting officer was then to respond to this matter. However, the actions that were highlighted in the submission were not sufficient to fully address the matter. So resulting in us also issuing recommendations to the accounting officer to implement certain actions by 29 February 2024. Those recommendations included that the financial loss relating to this unused equipment should be quantified, and that appropriate actions must be taken to determine whether there are any responsible officials that are liable in law for the loss that was suffered by the department. And lastly, that reasonable steps must be taken to ensure that the equipment is disposed without delay in terms of Treasury regulations. So the 29th of February has passed, and we have not yet received a response from the department on the actions that have been taken to address these three recommendations. The last MI deals with the payment of inflated invoices for emergency ambulance services. This MI was issued in July 2023. We did receive a submission from the accounting officer, and after evaluating it, we concluded that the actions being taken were appropriate to address the matter. As we noted, that the accounting officer had referred the matter to the state attorney to assist with the recovery of the financial loss, and further that the military police were investigating the matter. We are in a process of then obtaining feedback from the accounting officer, and we have written to the Secretary for Defense to source the feedback on the actions that were highlighted in their original submission. On the DMV, there was one MI that was issued at the point of our report, and it relates to the allocation and payment of emergency housing to ineligible military veterans. So in terms of us assessing the actions being taken, we concluded that the actions were not appropriate to fully address the MI, and therefore we then concluded that the matter must be taken forward in terms of further actions within the HESA structures. We have since then requested more information from the department to allow us to finalize that process of further actions and are awaiting that additional information. So Chairperson, those were the MIs in the DOD as well as the DMV. But having implemented the MI process, we also noted that there are some challenges in terms of ensuring that MIs are fully addressed in the Department of Defense. And the challenges mainly emanate from legislation which sort of provides some limitations in terms of the steps that the accounting officer can take, because the process of MIs mainly deals with the accounting officer, because in terms of the PFMA, they have specific responsibilities that they must implement to ensure that the irregularities are dealt with in a department. So we noted that in terms of legislation, both the Defense Act and the PFMA do recognize the Secretary for Defense as the accounting officer of the department. However, the Defense Act, when it comes to implementing consequence management, in particular disciplinary actions, has certain limitations in terms of what the accounting officer, being the Secretary for Defense, can do to implement consequence management, which then gave rise to that legal conundrum that the SecDef does not have the power to exercise disciplinary actions over the members of the military, while the chief has the power to take the steps, including disciplinary actions against the members and certain employees. So in terms of the process, then it means that where we've raised MIs and it requires consequence management, the accounting officer to whom we issue the MI may not be able to lawfully then take actions that will result in consequence management. So it then directly impacts the AG's ability to assign remedial consequences for the failure to implement recommendations and ensure that there's adherence to the remedial actions as provided for in our MI regulations. So this is a matter then that still needs to be dealt with and revisited, in particular looking at the accountability framework of the department. Chairperson, as I indicated earlier, we also then thought that let's also include the minister's commitments because when we finalize our outcomes, we also engage the minister to ensure that as part of the ecosystem role player, she also has a role to play and she provides what she can do to support the accounting officers and accounting authorities within the portfolio. So the commitments that we received from the minister when we met with her after we've provided the outcomes were as follows. The first one was that she will monitor and support the accounting officers with the implementation of corrective measures to address audit findings. On the issue of Project Tusano, which is the procurement of certain services from the Cuban entity, the minister was to obtain a report from the DoD legal unit on their review of Project Tusano contract so that they can assess areas that are not beneficial to the department and ensure that there's corrective action. And then lastly, to provide oversight regarding implementation of consequence management within the portfolio. So we have written to the minister at the end of February to seek a progress on these commitments that she had provided in the prior year, and we still then await the feedback from her office on these three commitments. Chairperson, as I move to closure, we have also then just highlighted the messages that we'd like the committee to take forward in terms of actions that needs to be visited by the next portfolio committee as part of oversight over this portfolio of defense and military veterans. We also reflect on the PC, the portfolio committee, in terms of our observations throughout this sixth administration. So we are saying that we have been recommending certain actions or areas of focus to the audit committee for oversight as part of this accountability ecosystem. And in the main, those areas we're focusing on the action plans, the performance and the consequence management and MIs. And our observation was that the committee indeed engaged with all the role players in the ecosystem, including the executive and administrators, to provide oversight and to promote accountability within the defense and military veterans portfolio. There was guidance and advice provided to the departments and the entities during those interactions. But what we've seen is that there continues to be limited or slow progress in terms of addressing the recommendations to improve audit outcomes and accountability within the portfolio. So in terms of ensuring that we accelerate accountability improvements to serve the public, we are highlighting the key 4 areas to be taken forward. And Chairperson and members, I must say that we have noted the legacy report of the committee, which was presented in the last meeting and also shared with us by the secretary of the committee. Chairperson, we have noted that most of these matters that we're highlighting here are already included in your legacy report, and that really gives us comfort that the work that we've been doing with this committee, there is alignment in terms of what are the remaining matters that really needs to be taken forward by the next administration. We are thankful for that. So on DMV, the issues of instability at leadership level needs to be addressed. The entire audit of the department must be fully capacitated. And also the consequence management must be implemented for all irregularities, including the MI that has been issued to the department. On DOD, the internal control environment must be strengthened to achieve accurate and transparent reporting. Senior management posts must be filled, and leadership must collaborate to implement consequence management and to protect the department's resources. Also, again, on the DOD, as I highlighted in the previous slide, the issue of accountability framework needs to be also revisited to ensure that it is revised and including the issue of supply chain management that is supposed to reside within the purview of the Chief Financial Officer. And to all portfolio entities, the next portfolio committee should continuously monitor the effectiveness of their ecosystem role players to ensure that they exercise their responsibilities adequately to achieve respective mandates and that they report in a manner that is transparent. If all of this is done, we'll ensure that there's enforcement of ethical leadership where leaders perform their roles effectively and take full accountability for their respective areas of responsibility. We'll ensure that the culture shifts towards performance, accountability, transparency, and integrity. Chairperson, as we close here, we also then invite the committee to provide the overall reflections. This is our last presentation to the committee. And also, if there are any matters or remarks that you want to take or to refer to us as the AGSA team. From our side, Chairperson, I would like to thank you for this opportunity and all the opportunities that the committee has given us over the years to really bring our audit insights and to support the committee. And we thank you for always also taking forward the recommendations that we are making in terms of how this committee can also then play the role in supporting the entities, in particular in terms of moving the audit outcomes and also ensuring that there's improvement in accountability within this portfolio of defense and military veterans. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sotetsi, for your presentation. Please allow me colleagues to keep my video off. The system kicked me out for some few minutes and I have had to relocate to another area. And no, thanks. Colleagues, I don't know how far you want to engage with the report, because the matters are not new. I think what Mbali was doing was basically summarizing the issues that we all have been engaged in for the last 4.5 years. It's just a summary of what has transpired, and since that time, of course, some issues date back to the time before 2019, and it became a carryover into this term. So we are aware of that as well, and she's just giving us the progress on how those matters have been attended to or addressed by the responsible authorities. And they are not new. because in the last 2 weeks, we dealt with the audit action plans. The first week of the 2 weeks, week before last, it was the DMV audit action plans, as well as the report of the progress report of the internal audit committee. Last week, it was the DOD's 10. We dealt with their audit action plans, as well as the progress report by the internal audit committee. And the issues are the same. And it's safe to say that we have reflected the issues that we consider needed to be taken into the new parliament in our legacy report. And so that's where we are. And it tells us how we are rounding up the year or the term. Colleagues, you may just want to comment on what more you want the audit, the AG office to do, and how you have received their support, and if you have any proposals on how we need to improve our interaction. Maybe this is the opportunity. Interaction between ourselves and ASCA, the Office of the Auditor General, and then probably leave it at that, so that we don't repeat what we have already discussed in the last 2 meetings. I should indicate that in the meeting we also have the acting Director General, as well as the CFO of the entity of DMV, and we must also acknowledge the presence of the BMA, Border Management Authority, Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato. You are welcome. I don't know who else is coming from that environment, but I'm acknowledging the commissioner at the moment. And all right, maybe colleagues, I don't know how you want to deal with that. And Mr. Murray.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you to the Auditor General. Maybe just a word from my side as well to express my sincere appreciation for the work that they've done. I think the fact that they were always prepared to interact with us and listen to us. I know that in the past there was sometimes very harsh criticism from our side for them not taking appropriate action as well, and that has even improved. So that is much appreciated. Chairperson, what I take from this, and you'll recall last week when we received the action plans plus also the report from the audit committee, was that those are only to the third quarter, and things will probably improve. But however, what this is telling us, it has not improved, and that there are serious concerns. And I know that fortunately we have identified many of these, if not most, and that it is in our legacy report. However, it is still disappointing to still receive this report from the Auditor General that has actually shown that the DOD, especially, we know that the DMV was to a large extent dysfunctional, but that the DOD has actually moved backwards. And that is obviously of a concern. And whoever will be the permanently appointed executive will have to make this a serious priority. And whoever will be the final CFO will have to take this very, very seriously. The one thing that I am missing, Chairperson, from this is, you recall last week, the audit committee has reported that there was and a significant amount that seems to be irrecoverable because of the lapse of time. I have looked for that in the Auditor General's report, and I couldn't find any response to that. And my obviously question to both the Auditor General and the SecDef is whether that money has then been written off, or has it actually not been written off and in fact been recovered, despite the reports from the Audit Committee last week. So that will be important for me. And yes, hopefully, what is disappointing to me still at this end from this report is where it says status of the material irregularities, appropriate action not taken. Now, that is obviously inexcusable. And whoever is the accounting officer, whether it's the SecDef or the chief of the SNDF, we will have to find a legal and legislative framework to hold somebody accountable, because it seems like there's nobody who's actually taking responsibility, and it's a not a blame shifting in the negative side, but it seems like there are gaps in the legislation that either don't provide the measurements and the mechanisms to hold somebody accountable, or it might provide an opportunity for someone not to take responsibility because he or she might not be the legal accounting officer, or the powers might not be to the. So that's something that we will have to address very urgently in the new term, whoever will be responsible for that. And hopefully from the minutes of today that can add to our legacy report, that can be taken up. But from my side, the Auditor General must just proceed with vigorous actions. Because remember, Chair, we need more money from National Treasury. And an Auditor General report like this will show that the priorities are not right in the DOD, and therefore they will be reluctant to give more money if money is wasted like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mare. Quite progressive. And Honorable Thabo, Honorable Bond, and Honorable Mafanya. In that order, please. Thabo, Bond, Mafanya.
All right, no, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone on the platform. Chair, I'll follow suit and appreciate the good work that is being done by the AG so far. But I think one area that remains a concern for me is around the irregular expenditure on compensation of employee that remains unresolved, despite the attempt that we have done, facilitated for the engagement between the department, National Treasury, and also to some extent requested the AG to also find a way to assist the department around resolving that particular matter, because we know and we all agree as a portfolio committee that that matter needs to be condoned so that it reduces that irregular expenditure from the department. My second clarity that I will need from the AG, maybe I missed a point around if I'm not mistaken, if he was referring to the Heberon matter, that it's whatever that was brought into the country was returned, and the outstanding monies that were supposed to be paid were not paid. But the question is, there was a payment done, and if you return the goods, for whether you have paid the full amount or whatever amount you have paid, that money must be returned back, or or it must be disclosed somehow as a fruitless expenditure because that payment has already been made of 200 and something million. Can I get clarity on that? And then, yeah, that's all from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bond.
Thank you, Chair. I know I've only been on this committee for just over a year, and it's really opened my eyes to the fact that I really believe that there needs to be an alignment of our military to serve the Constitution, which means the protection of our borders first, and then foremost any other engagements that we commit to as a government. I believe that the AG has really tried to guide us in the right direction for us to achieve our KPAs and KPIs. And I thank them for that, and I thank them for their diligence. Chair, also I want to thank you and the committee for the understanding that we need to address these things as a matter of urgency. But I believe that the DOA has failed this country in the defense of the country. And I believe that the Military Veterans Association has failed the military veterans. That is my short term that I've had here, but that's what I believe, and that I'll take over out of this. I'm not new in the military. I spent 42 years, 2 years in national service, 20 years with First City, and 20 years with Natal Carbineers. And to see the state that the military is in is of a proud person who's in the military. And I've served more years in the SANDF than I did in the SADF. Makes me very uneasy. So I wish the new committee coming in the next term all the best, but they need to really identify the problems that we have. And with the gaining of ground of ISIS through Somalia and now in Mozambique, and they're actually on our border of Natal, and with all these sleeper cells that we have in the country, it is a threat. And because our borders are not protected, this country is used as a spring base for the smuggling of anything in the world. And that is a fact. And we have not put things in place to make sure that we can control that. So all I can say is, yes, I really appreciate the privilege of being here and being with all the people on the committee that are committed. This committee is committed, and your leadership, Chair, and all the other parties' leadership. And I wish the new term all the best. But I hope that those matters that I've brought up will serve to give the new committee some impetus. And thank you very much for the friendship and the camaraderie.
Thank you very much. I also need to welcome the chairperson of the Audit Committee and the DOD, Mr. Luyanda Mangobo. And yeah, thank you very much that you are present when we are receiving the presentation from the AGSA. I'm not quite certain if there's anyone from the Internal Audit Committee of the Military Veterans, Department of Military Veterans. And but I just wanted to indicate that this is the delegation at this meeting. And Mafanya, you were next.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks to the Auditor General. We actually want to acknowledge the work done and then the profound way that you dealt with issues, the transparent way that we've educated some of us of the dealings of the DOD as well as Military Veterans Department. It is indeed not the first time that we get this information, and you have repeatedly and consistently been telling us the same thing all the time, and the onus was upon us. And the unfortunate part is that we have arrived at the end of this term, sixth administration, that we have to take these matters forward to the next administration. But the reality of the matter is that we have armed even other bodies to delve into these matters, because us alone as the committee, we could not. In as much as we've been here for quite a while, we could not address a lot of things, more so where we have fruitless expenditures, you know, mismanagement of funds and all that to the tune of 9 billion. We cannot take that lightly and say, no, it will be given next to next people who may also be faced with problems where they have to undergo the same vigorous investigations that we have tried to do, and at the end of their administration, they don't come up with tangible results. So I, for one, I'm very thankful for the committee as well, to have probed, to have worked tirelessly to get into the deep of issues that are happening within the DOD and military veterans. And I also want to congratulate our committee members who have been on top of the situation to a point where we know what we know today and the happenings in the DOD. So with the Auditor General, you left no stone unturned, and we are very grateful for that. And we will take the matter even after this administration. The matters cannot be left idle and not attended to. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and for those words. And yes, let me take Miss Petle, Honorable Petle.
Good morning, Chair, and good morning to everyone in the platform. Perhaps, Chair, I should also echo the same or sing the same song that speakers before me have said, that we appreciate the good work and the good and positive presentation made today. But mine is not a question, it's just a comment. My comment is that to those who should lead implementation, perhaps in the next administration, they should fast track and pull their socks. And perhaps AG should also identify who should be responsible to do what, so that we are able to the coming administration, we are able to hold a particular individual responsible in terms of implementation of what was supposed to be done. Because it can be correct, administration after administration. Same words are echoed, but they fell to deaf ears, for the lack of the better word. That kind of improvement need to be dealt with accurately, so to improve that the departments should ensure that the audit becomes smooth and implementation of the findings, because it's quite prudent to ensure that whatever findings are made by the AG, implementation need to be accurately and promptly attended to, so that there should be improvement and less unnecessary expenditure or fruitless expenditure that we from time to time talk to. And it can be correct to use words, but there's no actions. That will be my comment, Chair. But nonetheless, today we got the real gist of the the report. The presentation was direct to the point. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Acting SecDef, we are at the end of our term now. You may want to say one or two words as a parting shot, and how you have seen the the ecosystem players, working. Have you find this helpful? And I know we have made progress together, and albeit being slow, but we have moved forward, and we are not leaving the department where we found it at the beginning of the term, and there's certainly been some movement, and we will not have come this far without the assistance of the internal audit units and the internal audit committee. Sorry. My apologies. Well, we've been assisted. We will not have come this far without the support of the Internal Audit Committee, as well as its unit in both entities, as well as the Office of the Auditor General. We were all in the same team, having the same objective. And even when the weaknesses were raised, were with a view of trying to bring it to the attention of the powers that be, to have them addressed so as to strengthen the department. And anyone who ignored these early warning signals, or the AG's office, anyone who does it is not doing a service to the entity he or she serves, and the results would be too ugly to contemplate. So we that's all I can say in thanking the team. I think we've worked well, and there was never a time when our motives were questioned, and or we appeared not to be working towards the same direction. So thank you very much for that. But I'll start with the Chief of Staff representing the Chief of the South African Defence Force to say one or two words, and then to the committee, to the AG, to the Internal Audit Committee, and to the support they receive from the SecDef. Once we're done with the Chief of Staff, I will then move to the Acting Secretary General, and then we move to the next item. Chief of Staff.
Chairperson and honorable members, thank you very much. I need to say that from the office of the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, we are so humbled. We are humbled to have worked with a portfolio committee that has kept us alert in terms of the job that we are entrusted to do by the Constitution. And that for me has been a journey that was exciting, given the way in which the committee has been dealing with the Department of Defense. And trust me, Chairperson and honorable members, we always remember you, even if it's just a tea time or anything like that. You are always, we always talk about you. May I say, just to give you an assurance, you have put us to task with your final words, and those words has got to do with consequence management. I need to say, just to assure the honorable members that this has been a subject matter that we've been seized with, particularly with the previous PDSCs. And our intent has been very simple, to say that we are going to be putting up a team that is made out of legal, the military police, and headed by somebody that is much more higher, especially when it comes to matters of material irregularities, so that we are able to delve down, and we want the cases to be looked at. Once they say that this BOI is complete, that the team will have to take that and interrogate that, so that at least we can ensure from an informed position on each and every inquiry to say how far this matter is. There is also another matter that we made a decision on, and that matter talks to the issues of accountability. And we have said that we have to sit down with the Auditor General, and because they are reporting from the position of law, and until we engage with them, until we provide them a written document wherein we express our position as the military, wherein there is a law that is provided, but there are certain ways of doing things in the military that which are not recognized or taken care of by the law. But then we ended up saying that we are not throwing a blame to the Auditor General when they make findings that says that, but between the sector, between the chief of the SA and the FSDs and that, we said that let's rather sit with the Auditor General and provide a position formally that we will have to discuss with them, so that we get rid of some of the findings if they understand our positions. I think these are just the two comments finally that I would like to make, and to say to honorable members, if we don't see honorable members again, I still wish that we will see them via parliamentary questions, if members will still be there. And this has been an area that we've been interacting with the members of parliament. So I would say from my side, Chairperson, thank you very much. We're going to miss the voices, but so much appreciate working with this committee. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff. Well said. And I can't repeat what you have said. I agree with you 100%. Acting Secretary.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I agree with the Chief of Staff, so I'm not going to repeat what he has said. It's true that we have to improve on investigations, because unless your investigations are timely, consequence management will lack. So in the next administration, we know that this is a weakness, so we don't want to blame anyone. Sometimes investigations are slow because of the capacity within the military police. Sometimes it's other reasons, but we are acknowledging that we have a gap there with the pace of our investigations and consequence management. And I will also want to echo that we do appreciate the committee, the chair, and all members, the way they have kept us on our toes. And we do appreciate AXA because the Auditor General does add value to the work that we do. We do appreciate and would like the Auditor General to also support us as we navigate the issue of irregular expenditure on COE with National Treasury. Maybe if more voices are heard by National Treasury, they are going to assist us in this respect. But I do want to also, Chair, leave an impression that I am the chief of the South African National Defence Force, work together, and we do agree that we need to improve on consequence management. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Acting Executive. Mafu, you are on the platform. Let me recognize you as well before we take the next item. My apologies.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, honorable members and colleagues. Thanks.
Yes, do you want to make one or two parting shots? I know you are still owing us something, but just parting shot on this one.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. It has been a journey that had ups and downs, but your intention as a committee was to make the department improve. We appreciate your guidance and at times you're beating us up, but as the leaders and as people charged with oversight responsibility, we understood where you were coming from. We are committed, Chairperson and members, to improve as a department. And I believe that there is a movement towards the right direction. And it is our history that is making us not that improving to be as visible as it should. But we really appreciate and we hope that in the next administration, you could come back so that there could be continuation in the work you have started with the department. For AGSA, we note the comments that were made, especially with the issue of instability in top management, and it is a message that we'll communicate to our principals, because as long as there's no stability in the top officials, then the department will not achieve as it should. Otherwise, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, each and every member of the Portfolio Committee. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
No, thank you very much. Colleagues, thank you very much for all these words. And they point to one thing, that we were working together for the success of the two entities, and to enhance service delivery. And thank you for those words. We'll leave it at that for now. And the minister, the deputy minister, could not be in the meeting because of commitments elsewhere. His cabinet today, and the DM had to attend to another pressing matter. And there was also an apology from Nkosi Cebekulu that I did not register in the beginning. So those were the three apologies I was made aware of. Let's then quickly move to the last part one item. It's a presentation. The chief of staff or the acting executive, between the two, they will indicate how we prosecute this one. Just please talk to it. We are flagging issues. We are not getting into the details of them. And we'll just leave that for the new parliament.
Person, my apologies.
Yes,
I had one question for the Auditor General with regards to that money that was. I'm not quite sure what the right English word is, but in Afrikaans we saw it for a year. So in other words, where it is lapsed because of age.
Okay. There was also another question from Tabo. Yes, my apologies. Thank you very much, Mr. Murray. There was also another question from Tabo. AG, maybe that is your last your opportunity, including your parting shot on this. Over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, honorable members. So on the item of irrecoverable amounts that were highlighted in the audit committee report, Chair, we'll just have to go back on that one and see in which angle were they raising the recoverable amount, because from our review, the only area that we highlighting is around consequence management, which may be linked to that particular item. And in our report, yes, we didn't flag the amounts that may possibly not be recovered, but we have in our detailed feedback that we gave to the department, highlighted the area of suspensions and whereby then the matters take longer to be investigated, which then talks to consequence management. But we'll collaborate with the audit committee to take forward perhaps the risk that they were highlighting around the irrecoverable amounts and take it through the audit process as well if it is required. On the matter of heparin drugs, yes, there was an amount that was paid initially for the drugs, but a significant amount, the part that was not paid was the significant part that we are referring to. The 3.9 million that was paid is a subject of investigation by the SIU, because the SecDef then referred all the matters that were emanating from the public project SA remedial actions to the SIU. So as part of their work, the SIU will then determine from whom that 33 million must be recovered from, whether it must be recovered from the service provider or certain officials within the department. So we're not saying that all the full amount was actually then prevented in terms of being a loss. We are saying a certain portion was prevented because with the return of the drugs, then the full amount was then not paid. But yes, we agree that the 3.9 million is a subject of investigation, which must determine then to whom it must be recovered. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members also for the inputs. We welcome all the comments that were made by the committee with regards to the work that we've done as the HSA in providing support to the committee. We appreciate all the feedback. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for that, HSA. That then closes the chapter on audit action plans, progress on audit queries, this, that, and so forth, until the next term. All right, so we'll see you in the next term, AG. Thank you very much. All right, let's move to the next item. It's the item on acting SecDef. You may want to introduce the item.
Thank you, Chair. General Kundu, who is Chief of Military Police Strategy and Planning, will make a presentation. I just want to point out that members, as they advised us at the last portfolio committee, we have included the information and updated the report that we will be presenting. Thank you.
Honorable Chairperson, Acting SecDef, the Chief of Staff of the National Defence Force, have been already introduced. And I'm going to make a straightforward presentation on the earmarked funds for border safeguarding function of the SADF. The aim, therefore, is to provide feedback on the progress regarding the ring-fence allocations that will come from National Treasury. What I'm going to cover in terms of my scope is both what has been given to the Department of Defense during the 2020 MTEF period, an amount of 225, as well as what we have been given in the 2024 MTEF period for the borderline. We'll recall that an amount of 225 was allocated by National Treasury for utilization in the border safeguarding environment. In particular mentioned was the border technology. The amounts were divided. The total amount of 225 was divided into 65 million in the financial year 2020-2021, 75 million 21-22, and 85 million 22-23 respectively. The portfolio committee will recall that the Department of Defense did make a presentation to explain the utilization of the allocated funds, being the 225 million. However, on the instruction of the portfolio committee, we have once again sought to explain the utilization of these funds. The first amount of 65 million was reallocated away from border safeguarding and utilized in the fight against COVID-19 pandemic during that crisis. The next amount of 75 million in 21-22 was utilized and spent on the improvements on the conditions of the facilities and the critical prime mission equipment requirements in the borderline, the so-called operational bases or cost stations that existed in the borderline or along the borderline pre-1994. And the last amount of 85 million over the period, over the financial year 22-23, was then utilized in this way. An amount of 15 million was spent on specialized vehicles for utilization in the border areas, 1 million on radars, cameras, and the rest of the amount was not spent on border safeguarding due to the failure of procurement processes in the AMSCO environment. However, the remaining amount was then spent to sustain unfunded operations, the expenditure of which was then explained and authorized by National Treasury. With regard to the allocation on border safeguarding again during the 2024-2025 medium-term expenditure framework, the Department of Defense was then given an amount of 500 million for mobility packages and 200 million over the period 2024-2025, once off, so to speak, and an amount of 200 million for 2025-2026. And we're told by National Treasury that they are going to do everything possible to make sure that 200 million then carries on until at least we have covered a large part of the border areas. About the 500 million, which is earmarked for the procurement of armor protective carriers, not armor protection carriers for the 2024-2025 financial year. The process is being managed by AMSCO, who have finalized the contracting process and will place the procurement contract with effect from the 1st of April 2024. We will then begin to report quarterly and annually, but quarterly for the first quarter, starting, I think, by the end of June, the coming financial year. The 200 million earmarked for border technology for financial year 25-26. In this regard, we can only give feedback during the first quarter of 2025-26. But then what we expect is that AMSCO will be hard at work to make sure that over the period 24-25, they do all the preparatory work, that the money can be contracted for the procurement of sensor technology in the border areas. We have taken the liberty to also extend the presentation to the rest of the earmarked funds, particularly in the Air Force, Navy, and military health environments. About the air capability of the SANDF, we can confirm that an amount of 470 million has been committed towards the upgrade of a C-130BZ series within our C-130 fleet. The work started from the 1st of August in England with a contractor called Marshall Aerospace. And we are told that they are within line, or they are within their timeline in respect of doing their work. In the maritime environment, we'll recall that a total amount of 1.4 billion was allocated over 2 financial years. And that money is then placed within folio 2 within the Department of Defense. The refits of the frigates and a submarine is being managed by AMSCO as our acquisition agency in the Republic of South Africa. What has since happened is that AMSCO has already placed an order for procurement of spares to the amount of 40 million. However, what they have not been able to do is to make a own target in which they had to not only find a refit partner for the upgrade of the frigate, but also secure a contract for the refit on the 28th of September 2023. And they shifted their targets to the end of March 2024, some few days away. Where we will await with an updated draft to see if they will be able to pull off this amended target. The same applies with the refit of the submarine. Although a refit partner has been identified, but the contract has not been signed between Department of Defense through AMSCO and the refit partner. And the target has also been shifted to the end of 31st of March 2024. With regard to the mental health support, SAMS have been able to spend a substantial amount of money. You recall when we submitted the slide, at that point in time, only about 2.7 million was spent, but now SAMS have spent to the amount of about 63 million on ambulances, as well a host of diagnostic equipment, and also in the deployed medical equipment environment. The equipment procured places the mental health capability ready to support both the aviation environment as well as the air power environment. In other words, they have bought or they have procured equipment that will enhance them to support the Navy as well as the Air Force. In the defense intelligence environment, we also had an amount of 95 million, which has been allocated across different capabilities within the defense intelligence. An amount of 66 million has been spent on the cyber command capability. In other words, to establish the cyber command. There is now remarkably close progress in that environment, as well as the electronic collection capability. An amount has been spent. The maritime security strategy, the situational awareness dimension of the maritime security strategy, as well as departmental security capability. That means the implementation of Project ICAI to protect the assets and information resources of the Department of Defense and the SANDF. That concludes my presentation, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, General. Do you want to add anything, Chief of Staff?
Chairperson, at this stage, no, we will take the the questions and comments, and one would comment thereafter. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief of Staff. Right, colleagues, the matter is on the table. And Thabo, is this your old hand? All right. Mr. Marais?
Yeah, I'll put it down, Chair. It's an legacy.
Okay, sure. Mr. Marais?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the presentation. My first question that I just want to start with, this presentation, we have not received this updated one. Normally, before any presentation and any meeting, we at least, if there's an update, we receive that in advance. I've now asked Brian, and apparently we have not, even he has not received this updated one. So can we please get that? I mean, that's been part of protocol, and it's actually disappointing. Then I want to just get the confirmation. If I heard correctly, in terms of the borderline technology, what was the involvement of Armscor in that? And to what extent have they not done their work so far? I think that was in part of the slides that was the updated ones, because I couldn't find anything in my presentation that I'm just following. Then also, I just wanted to get feedback with regards to the maritime defense, which obviously is of critical importance to us, and specifically the matter where it's referred to Armscor couldn't finalize. Now, I mean, we know of this requirements and needs for the upgrades of the frigates and the submarines for so long already. And it's been mentioned so many times by us. So to still find points of Armscor could not meet this target date, how on earth is that possible? And can you just maybe just more clarify on that? Because one, patience is running out, and obviously we are at the end of a term, but patience is running out. We cannot have a situation of constantly being in a situation that they couldn't meet their target. In this regard, it has been said here that by the end of March, the new date is. Now we are at the end of March, and surely we should be in a position of at least getting the feedback from the DOD. Are we still set for the end of March? Because we are at the end of March, and you should be aware at this stage whether end of March will be reached or not. Surely you would have communicated or liaised with Armscor prior to this presentation. I mean, we are there and we don't know. So can we get clarity on that, and why do we not have the updated information? Thank you, Chair, very much. Is it me that has been cut off, or why is it so quiet?
My apologies, members. We seem to have lost the chair, but I've just readmitted him back into the meeting. He should be able to speak anytime sooner.
Thank you very much, Brian. I'm sorry, the system kicked me out. Thanks. It was after Mr. Marais had concluded his remarks. And my questions, just one question from my side, General. You are talking border management or border security, or beefing up our border security. Let me say borderline security. You obviously would not have successful results unless you coordinate with the Border Management Authority. You consult them before you go on acquiring your border management or borderline security equipment or technologies. To what extent do you consult with them? I'm raising this point in the context of an integrated border management strategy that was conceptualized and before the formation, that led to the formation of the Border Management Authority. But then later it was said, okay, you can leave out defense because defense has a broader mandate. And you can leave out, I think, SAPS and so on. And but in the end, you are in the same space, except when it comes to your area of focuses, where it becomes mutually exclusive. But it's mutually exclusive, but in the end, the Defense Force plays an overarching role, as it were. So in terms of consultation, when you plan, you design, and the new strategies, to what extent do you consult with the Border Management Authority? Thank you so much. Hello? I'm raising this question. General, in context of your acquisitions that are on the offing in terms of the new allocation. Over to you.
Honorable Chair, can I first apologize for the mishappening in terms of the updated presentation? We always seek to provide the latest information. So the last that we have updated this presentation is this morning. And in fact, I did give you some of the information that is not even in the presentation because we've been consulting with the environment that is dealing with part of the presentation, and we gave the latest update. And we thought that is in the interest of transparency and dealing in good faith with the portfolio comments. Secondly, in respect of the maritime defense, for Armscor being able to meet their target date, which has shifted from September to January. Honorable Chair, I cannot speak with authority on behalf of Armscor, but then by all indications, it looks like they will be able to meet the target date. It can only be them that can raise an issue preventing from meeting their target date. For all what I know, myself and the Chief of Staff and the General that is here, that is all we know, that they are going to be able to meet the target date. Then the involvement of Armscor in the updated technology. This one, the border sensor technology, the acquisition thereof will be done through Armscor. The process will unfold in earnest this financial year, beginning with the 1st of April. I think it is our established process that the users will then define the requirements. I'm also trying to answer to the Honorable Chair, Mr. Palmer. The users will set out the requirement. And in fact, if I can remind the portfolio committee, I can recall that we did present the Journey to Greatness plan. Part of the Journey to Greatness plan is a chapter on the border safeguarding optimization plan. The Border Safeguarding Optimization Plan is a product of planning and military appreciation in the military, where other stakeholders are not necessarily involved.
Sorry,
Stakeholders like
comments by line manager. I'll say, can this week I have to run? Okay. Can I take it with me?
Sorry, please switch off your mic.
There's a lot of talk at the background.
Please switch off your mic. The General Kundu is on the platform. My apologies, General Kundu.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Chair. I was still saying, Honorable Chair, that the Border Safeguarding Optimization Plan, part of which the situational awareness and its resources has been covered, is a product of the military planning and military appreciation. And during that military appreciation, much as we have consulted extensively with research groups, with industry in that environment, and looking at sensors that we already have today across all the domain capabilities, the BMA was not involved. So that part of the plan was decided outside the BMA. But then we'll have to recall, Honorable Chair, that the SNDF is responsible for the entire borderline. The BMA, I think if you recall, during the last presentation by the Commissioner and CJ Ops, it became very clear that they are responsible for ports of entry as well as...
Sorry, Mochapo, please switch off your mic. My apologies again.
Yeah, as well as what is called civilian crossing. So the whole borderline must be covered by the Defence Force through the use of technology sensors. We reckoned in the Journey to Greatness plan that we already have some sensors, for instance, with the engineer, some of the sensors we have with the Air Force. And those sensors must be made use of optimally and be supplemented through the funding that we are about to receive 2025-26 through National Treasury. But we're also looking at some other technologies, contemporary technologies, that at the end of the day will make the picture much more brighter. And so to make sure that we then conduct intelligence-driven operations along the border. What I know, Honorable Chair, is that the intelligence institutions of the country do coordinate and share information amongst themselves. With the Border Management Authority coming into the fore, I'm sure it will join the queue and receive some of the information that will be coming from these sensors. And I think that's then what will define their participation into the border situational awareness environment. Let me leave it at that, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll leave it at that. Mr. Bond, do you want to say something? I see your hand is up. Okay, it's a legacy hand, I suppose. Colleagues, all right, let's leave it at that for now. And let me thank the department for their presentation on.
Sorry, Chair.
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I need to say something before you move on to the next item.
You are welcome to do that, sir.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. Chair, that's why at the last meeting I asked for a flow chart for control and command, and how the different departments fit into that control and command, and that hasn't been presented to us, because that'll define and it'll help us understand how the processes work. Because I think if we have that in hand, that will help with defining the different departments' inputs. Thank you.
Well, I'm not quite certain if I understand what you mean by a flow chart. I'm not certain. Maybe the Chief of Staff understood it. Let me just check with him.
Okay.
Chief of Staff, does this ring the bell? I'm trying to understand.
Chairperson,
yes, sir.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I really would want to respond to the question, slightly not understanding it, but I think there was a presentation, I don't know if Honorable Bond was present. There was a presentation by the BMA, wherein Chief of Joint Operations was also present, wherein there was that presentation, both of the two officers they complemented each other in terms of the way they conduct their business. So at some point, there is a support between the BMA as well as the military. When it comes to matters of command and control, as the military, we command our own soldiers, and liaison is done at the headquarters level if there is a need for any action that needs to be taken. The BMA do the same, and as General Tundu indicated, they are kept in the BMA is more in the ports of entry whilst we are in the borderline. And in that presentation, the two officers, the commissioner as well as chief of joint operations, they pointed out on mutual areas of cooperation where the need arises. I think, if I understand it, is Honorable Dawn is referring to those interactions. So I would want to summarize it in that way, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm happy you have brought light
Thank you, Chair.
on that. Thank you so much, Mr. Bond.
Chair,
yes, sir.
The reason why I asked that question is because of that presentation. Because when you talk about control and command, you need to look at the Constitution, and the military is first and foremost there for the protection of our borders, and then the SAP are second. So that's why.
Have I lost him? Brian, have I lost him? Yes. Or you?
Oh, yes, okay, it sounds like I've also lost him.
Okay, no, thank you so much.
Can you hear me now, Chair?
Yes, I can hear you.
Chair, because of that presentation, I asked that question because under the Constitution, the military is duties first and foremost the protection of our borders, and then the SAP, because they have to protect the internal integrity of the country, are then second most, and then any other department. So that's why I asked for that control and command pull down in a pictorial form, so it's easily understood. But I do understand what the general has said, and from that I will write questions. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you very much. I'm happy you have been answered. Colleagues, let's leave it at that for now. It then remains for me to thank all the participants today, starting with the acting secretary, the acting director general of DOD, and the chief of staff, and the border management authority as represented by its commissioner today, the AG South Africa, and the support team from these entities. Thank you so much for your participation and in this meeting, and I wish you well as you take leave. And we've come to the end. We will now then move to the next item, which is just an internal item, but you can sit in if you want to. We are dealing with the minutes now, and thank you so much. Brian, are we dealing with the minutes now? Yes, we're dealing with the minutes. Colleagues, let's deal with it. Thank you so much. Thank you. Right, let's look at the minutes, please, Brian, and let's discuss the notes now. Okay, there you are. All right. With minutes of the 20th of March last week, dealing with the ring-fence, the allocation which was deferred and moved to this meeting, internal audit action plans, as well as the response briefing by the audit committee, as well as the legacy report. All right, at the minutes, right? This was the attendance. Attendance, please complete attendance. On page 2. If there are any corrections, please check. Colleagues, if there are any corrections. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. And page 6. Right? That to the end of page 6. Thank you. The last page. All right, colleagues. Are there any corrections that you want to propose? If none, yes, Ms. Petley. Sorry,
From this end, one has not come across anything that needs or warrants corrections. I would move for the adoption of the minutes.
Ms. Petley moves the minutes for adoption. Any seconder?
I second.
Mr. Mara seconds. Colleagues, we've worked well as a team. Thank you very much. And you have been a good team. I think it was reflected even on the comments by the various entities that commented on the ecosystem arrangement, as it were. All right, so thank you very much until we meet again. I think we're meeting tomorrow night for the Joint Standing Committee on Defense. All right. With that, thank you so much. Yes, sir.
Chairperson, yeah, thank you. Just from my side again, I mean, yes, we will talk tomorrow evening and we will probably say our goodbyes. But just, you know, a personal gratitude from my side to you and Brian and obviously our colleagues, but then most importantly, our support staff as well. This is, I've said it in a couple of times in the past, that this Six Parliaments Portfolio Committee was by far the best that I have served in my more than 17 years in Parliament, and it was most certainly superior to the previous term. And I was part of that portfolio committee, but this one is really outstanding. So yes, we have worked incredibly well. I think, yes, we had our differences from time to time, but it was always in good spirit. And it was always, you know, to find the best possible solution for the Defence Force and for our country. So, you know, whilst tomorrow night it will be a different forum, but just from my side, you know, for those who are not returning, and I might be one of them, so, you know, I will certainly miss you guys if I do not return, but it has been a tremendous pleasure for me, and it has certainly contributed significantly to my enthusiasm and motivation to work hard for the best of our country. And that's why we have worked so well in a non-partisan way. And I think you guys, I don't know if you guys, but you know, one might be criticized by your own parliament, by your own party, for not driving the party political issues so hard. But I think for us, it was well beyond that, and it was also patriotism that has I think you know, came to the surface for all of us. So for my personal side, thank you. And I know that Honourable Bond is not part of our meeting tomorrow. So even for Honourable Bond, when he stepped in, he's also been a tremendous support for me, just to give context from a military and a Defence Force point of view. And even that was much appreciated. So thank you very much. And yeah, God bless you all, and see you tomorrow evening. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much, Mr. Murray. Well said and supported. We've been a good team. We're not partisan. You were driven by patriotism. I agree 100%. With that, the meeting stands adjourned. Thanks.
Record.